Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Corner podcast for a special episode here this week where we're going to talk about round two trades. There's been a bit of injury carnage following this week, so we're going to delve straight into it as a little special episode. Solo pod here. Sadly, Darcy couldn't join me tonight. We'll firstly start with making sure you jump on the socials, make sure you're following along, subscribe, all that good stuff. Don't miss any content from us. And join the Unlimited League, 728323. Make sure you get involved there. Come up against all the Supercoach Corner listeners. Let's start by reviewing my team. This is my team heading into the round three, I guess. As you can see, I've got all the buy players already moved off. Trades this week are pivotal, and it is the only week that you have to use three trades to get it right. Unless you are literally top of the Supercoach leaderboard already, you should be using three trades this week. So my trades at the moment for this week are all injury trades at the moment, which is great. We'll delve into their injuries a bit later. Connor Rosie, is out for a fair few weeks, and Sharp and Petrarca all out for me. I'm bringing in Lockie Ash. I know he's got the bye coming up in a week, but he's the only defender I'm really, really sold on getting. I was very tempted to start him at the start of the year. I just couldn't fit him in my structure, and then he's dropped a little bit in price because of that early opening round score. So I figured it's a good time to snatch him up. And there's only two teams on that round four bye, so I'm not too stressed on that one. Nick Dacos, I didn't start him. 60% of other super coaches started him or something ridiculous. So I had to jump on that train after his buy before he goes up in price. And then Jack Watkins, I really like his job security now that Connor Rosie's gone down. So he seems like one of the better downgrade options this week. So that's my moves this week. So let's just talk about trading in general. After round two, you should be trading. Right before everyone's price goes up, goes down, fail primos that the roll's not there, or the injuries that we've had this week are massive. So we needed to then move them on. And it's getting the cash generation right. That is the biggest one. The cash cows are pivotal to set up your season going ahead. So you need to get them right coming this week because most of them are on the bubble. There's only been, I think, 6 teams that have had a price range, increase or decrease at this point. So it's pivotal to get them done now. Let's start with the injuries, and we'll start with one that affects a lot more teams is Christian Petrarca. He obviously started the season on fire. He's been insane with no Matt Rowell in there. And now they've lost another pivotal player in that midfield. Matt Rowell is only 1 to 3 weeks away. The new injury report is out this week. So this is all the latest information as of between round 2 and 3. So, Matt Rowell is only 1 to 3 weeks away with his finger. So that's good for a Gold Coast point of view. But Petrarca is 4 to 6 weeks. So that is a must trade. Anything more than 2 weeks, you need to be trading. I know that we're pretty slim pickings in that forward line. I'll touch on a few options this week, but it's very slim in that forward line. And there's some people that are thinking about holding if it was a 2 to 3 week injury, which I didn't hate since he's guaranteed to be a top 6 forward. But now that it's 4 to 6 weeks, you just have to move him on. That's a massive one there. In terms of the Port Adelaide front, which is Connor Rosie, his hamstring is TBC, but he's done the full tendon or something like that. It's a really bad hamstring. It's going to require surgery, but from all reports, and it could even be up to past the middle of the year that we even see him back. So he's a must trade, even more so than Petrarca. Milan Murdoch, some report came out today that he actually played through a little hamstring niggle through the last game, and he got some scans on it, and it turned out to be a strain, a full strain. So, um, he's going to be a few weeks. So the people that didn't jump early on Murdoch, you've definitely been blessed there. And that is a very clear representation of why you don't go early on rookies. Um, I had to, with how my team was set up, just because no one was changing price yet. It's not a bad thing that you had to go early round one, because you're trying to fix your team in the first two rounds before the price rises and falls. So yeah, so it's not a bad thing that you went early, but it's a good lesson to show that like we just shouldn't be going early. So yeah, it's just a big one there. Harry Edwards went down with the concussion. Could mean that, Ryan Marrick or comes back into the side, but it could also open the door back up for Josh Lindsay, who didn't do anything wrong with his opportunity in round one. I think it was a bit stiff to be dropped, but yeah, it is how it is. They ended up winning, so they might not change too much there. Dyson Sharp also copped a hamstring injury in his second game. So yeah, we didn't get hindered by a price fall there. Sorry, an ankle injury. My bad. Yeah, he's a test this week, so that's actually pretty good news. It didn't look good because he didn't come back on after he did the injury. So yeah, Sharp could play this week, but with the 14 in his cycle, it's just not going to help his cash generation, especially being at that elevated price. And there's a lot better options in terms of cash generation rookies, which we will touch on in this podcast. So, yeah, I'll touch on them in a second. Nick Bryan is also listed as 1 week away. I know that Blackiston has definitely not set the world alight and, not provided the scoring that we were expecting or at least hoping for. And we were thinking that Nick Bryan wasn't available until about round 5 or so. Seems like he might be available for round 4, being 1 week away. He has been away from footy for a while, being about a year now with his knee injury. So, yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, but we might be forced to hold Blackiston. I'm forced to hold Blackiston this week, which is a little bit frustrating. But, yeah, it's Nick Bryan might be back in 1 week. Another one that was last week, but we now have a timeline against it, is Hayden Young with his hamstring injury. He's 2 to 3 weeks from this week. So I am almost certain that they will proceed with caution on him just because he's got a lot of injuries in the past. Try and get him back as best they can and conditioned right for AFL footy and hope for less injuries going into the rest of the season. So, yeah, I think they'll proceed with caution on that one. So that's probably more the 3 week front. So if you do have him, you could hold through the buys, but then you're into best 22 again, come round 5. So you've got 2 more weeks of the buys. If he's going to miss another one, it's going to hurt you. So he's probably more of a trade than you think. If you have Rosie, Track, Young, and Sharp, maybe it's best to punt Young over Sharp, because Sharp could be back this week. So you could wait for teams on that one. And if anything, Sharp would be available the next week. I don't know if he's going to get straight back into that side either. So that one's a bit of a risky pick. But yeah, with Hayden Young's injury front, he's got that great scoring, which is the only other side. There's a few good fieldable rookies in the midfield now. Yeah, so you could look both ways. As long as you have some cover for Hayden Young that you think will happen in that, when we're back to best 23, maybe it's worth the halt because he could be a really good scorer there. Those are sort of the main injuries that have come out in the report today. So, yeah, we might get a few players back, which might shift some teams around. So we'll just have to wait for team selection come Thursday night. Yeah, so just keep an eye on those as usual. Miles Bergman might be the other one with a 1 to 2 week injury, but not sure a lot of people ended up jumping on him. And then, yeah, Nankervis is out for 6 to 8 weeks, which is another big one. Not that Nankervis is relevant, is the fact that we might get a really cheap ruckman from Richmond to come into the side. So, yeah, keep an eye on that. Now, let's get into some other trade outs that are non-injury affected. So let's see what everyone else is trading out. Obviously, you've got the Rosie, Petrarca, Sharp, Young, who we've already touched on. Leo Lombard is an interesting one. He only scored the 20 on the weekend, especially in a game where they thrashed Richmond. He just didn't do anything, couldn't get around that footy. Looks like Rogers might have gotten ahead of him in terms of the job security front. I wouldn't be rushing to trade him out. I think there's just not too many forward rookies that we can be jumping on. So it's okay to hold him. He showed in the previous 2 weeks he's got that decent scoring with 69 and 55. He might even get deployed through that midfield now that Petrarca's gone. So that could be one to keep an eye on. I'd rather be holding for maybe that than, not having Lombard after his bye. Yes, he's got the bye this week, but it's not going to hurt you too much because he wasn't ever going to be in your best 18 scoring. So, yeah, he's probably more of a hold there. Caleb Windsor is definitely one I want to look at. He has the role. He could easily flip this around. I think you've got other issues. Look, all these guys that I'm going to talk about in the trade out section, I'm just going to assume you don't have all three of the top guys, or maybe you're wanting to hold Dyson Sharp. So, yeah, let's just proceed on that basis before I keep repeating myself. But Windsor's, he's got the role. I just think he's not played too well in the last 2 games. It could mean he gets pushed out of there. I don't think he does. They'll persist with him. He's only young, developing into this role. He's got Carlton this week, who aren't too accountable on the defensive front. Gold Coast then have, an injury ravaged through that midfield. Yes, they're still a very good side, and they'll probably dominate Melbourne. But I don't think that's going to be too bad of a matchup for him. Then he's got Essendon, which is obviously a good matchup. And you can probably wait and see for, that. If he goes out next week and drops you another 60, he's probably a trade next week. But just, I'd wait and see on this Carlton game. I think that he might have a bounce back there. Lockie Blackiston, we spoke about. With Nick Bryan coming back soon, that hurts. He's coming up against Tristan Cherry, who just dropped 199 on the West Coast Eagles, so that's not good. He could be one that gets pummeled this week again and is a trade next week. So I don't hate this trade. He's definitely not setting the world alight. What we expected, we were sort of expecting that 80 scoring being the number one and only ruck for Essendon. So yeah, he's definitely a trade at this point. But if you're forced to hold, I don't hate it. He's not going to affect you too much with the price because he's got that 43 break even. So yeah, he could go out and score very well, and then we end up holding. So yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. Xavier Lindsay's another one. He's not scoring as well as what we wanted. Being in that half-back role for, he's only 2% owned. I know Darcy has him, but being in that half-back role that, he's meant to be scoring very well. He's up in the 70s at the moment. He's definitely one that we could hold moving forward as well. Just keep the faith with these guys maybe for another week because they've still got that role. Josh Lindsay is also another one I wanted to speak about. I mentioned before, didn't look like he did too much wrong in that first game. Dropped to 61. A lot of people jumped off him once he was dropped from the side. And rightfully so, because you don't want to have a dead rookie after round 1 already. You want to be having it maybe after this week. The fact that we've got Murdoch injured. So you could just use Murdoch as your injury one. You don't want to have 2 dead rookies already. So he could easily come back into the side this week with that Edwards injury. So keep an eye out on that one. He's probably a bit more of a hold at the moment. And then the last one I kind of want to speak about in terms of the trade out section is McKercher. Looks like in the back half of last week, he actually got a bit of time off half back. So I'd be definitely inclined to hold this week because if he is going through that midfield, Essendon aren't really playing that good footy. If he goes through that midfield, I don't think he's going to hurt you too much in terms of the cash generation. Scoring is 68, he'll go down 23k. I'm not expecting a 68 if he's playing midfield. I'd probably expect that if he was on the wing or something like that. We only saw that a couple of times last year. So I'm definitely not expecting that role there. Yeah, if he goes in the midfield, he might drop an 80. If he goes off half back, that's the role that you want to buy him for. And then you're actually ahead of the competition in terms of holding McKercher. You've already got him. Everyone's going to be scrounging to trade him in because he could easily be a top 10 defender with that half back role. So I'm more inclined to hold McKercher for this week if you did jump on him. Let's talk about all the rookies that are must-haves going into this week. So, like I said before, it's pivotal to get the rookies right heading into round 3, right before their cash really increases and blows out of the water. And you want to have all the ones that are looking like they're going to make cash and quickly. So then you can upgrade quicker and you're then ahead of the competition even quicker. So don't jump on Murdoch. First of all, he's got that negative 145 break even, which is just insane. Yeah, he was probably going to go up 100k in 1 week, which is what you want out of your rookies is 100k. So that's huge. So Murdoch's been a absolute find, but yeah, that injury is really, really annoying. So he might be back in a few weeks. So I don't mind the long hold on him. I think I'm going to hold him and still punch sharp. So yeah, I don't hate that. If you did bring him in last week, you could trade him out because you really want to get that cash generation and bring him back in when he's named. Because even if he scores a 0 and gets on the park, doesn't do anything, scores a 0, which we don't expect because he just looks like a classy footballer. Yeah, he's going to go up heaps of money. So you will have to trade him back in at some point. So it's whether you value that trade this week. Devon Robertson is definitely a must-have just through that midfield of West Coast. Looks really, really good in there. So, yeah, he is 100% a must-have. Same with Jagger Smith as well. So, yeah, everyone should be having these two. If you don't have McAndrew, unless you're running the triple ruck in terms of R1, R2, and a flex, you should have this guy on your field. Always look at your team as well. I probably should have said this earlier. As a whole, you don't want to just be bringing in, I'm going to bring in McAndrew at R3, but then in 2 weeks when everyone's back, because you might have English out this week and, I don't know, someone out next week, TDK or something. I doubt anyone's, got that scenario. But, yeah, McAndrew is one that you can safely play on field. Being the number 1 ruck, Riley O'Brien keeps getting named in the emergencies. I think he's 1 game away being poor that he then gets dropped. But the more games that he puts together, because the first 2 have been very good, the more reliability they'll have on him. And he looks like he's built for the current status of footy as well, more than Riley O'Brien is. So, yeah, I think the job security is a bit better than what we thought. So, yeah, get McAndrew in your side if you don't have him. Tom Blamirez, a lot of people did start him. He's just going to make you some nice cash playing in that back line for North Melbourne. So, yeah, he can just sit on your midfield bench. But, yeah, when you're doing trades, make sure you're looking at your team as a whole. What I like to do is sub on and have my best 23 on field before thinking about any of the buys. Do my trades based on my team then sub off everyone that's on the buy this week. So then I know that my final structure is not going to be hurt too much. Like you might have an extra defender just floating in your midfield because you've got 1 in flex and then now he's in the midfield and then you've got 6 in the defense. And then now you kind of wasted that. You could have gone to a different midfield rookie or a forward rookie that was there. So it fits your structure better come best 22 rounds. So just make sure you're looking at it that way. It's an easier way to slip up during the bye rounds, especially the early ones. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. Todd Marshall, I think, is a must-have as well. Yeah, that negative 78 break even. He's just got that intercept role down back for Port, which is really nice. And they're coming up against West Coast this week, so he should have a field day down there. So yeah, he's definitely a must-have. Braden Cook looks really good. The job security is probably there now. The fact that Callum Archie's gone down, he was looking like he was playing on the forward flank / wing. And yeah, he's probably going to get that wing role on lock for a while now. But I'm not expecting the 90s each week. The wings are a bit of a hard one in terms of, all the ball could be on the wing that they are playing on when they're on the ground, or it could be on the other wing. And then they're just running just bulk kilometers and not getting the pill, not getting any stats, not getting any points for your side. But when they're on the favoured wing, like he was in the Collingwood game, that's why he dropped the 92. The Bulldogs game looks like it might have been a mix, but he could easily come out and drop a 30 or a 40, or he could even drop a 100 score. So the scoring is going to be too fluctuated with a wing roll. So I still like the pick, but I'm not scrounging to try and get him in. Yes, the forward DPP is nice, but 160k. If he was 99k, we'd definitely all be looking at him a lot differently. But you're spending another 60k just to get in Braden Cook, who could fluctuate, maybe even be out in a couple of weeks. But yeah, with the Archie injury, he might be okay. I think Chase Jones might have also pushed ahead of him in terms of job security, because Chase Jones playing half back, he could easily play on that wing as well. So we'll see how that unfolds. But yeah, I'm not super set on Braden Cook. Cooper Duff Tytler is the next one I want to touch on. Dropped 100 on the weekend. 190k ruck forward. I don't know how I feel about this one. He's going to have the job security because high draft pick, West Coast want to get games into him. But being a key forward, the game you saw in round 1 with the 37 against Gold Coast is probably more what you're going to get. He had to kick a few goals, do a few things in pivotal moments to get the 100 against North, and they're not going to be winning that many games, or be in games for that matter. So 190k is a lot to pay up for Duff Tytler. I don't know what you see spending 190k on a player like that. Is he your R3? You're better off just going Zach Ostelski or someone else, that's going to fit that DPP mold of R3 and still going to provide some cash. If Zach Ostelski's not picked, maybe it is the better option, but he's not going to be on field in your forward line. You got Philippou and Marshall there. I obviously expect Philippou to turn his form around that we've currently seen. So there's better fieldable rookies in the forward line. His teammate, however, Willem Dersma, I was surprised to see him in 33% of sides, to be honest. But he is the number 1 pick. A lot of people just start the number 1 pick for the sake of it. Similar for Braden Cook in terms of he's on that wing role, but he seems to get involved a lot more around the contest as well. And as number 1 draft pick, he's clearly a classy player. And he's playing that wing role really well. This one, 203k. I'm still not sure I'm paying up for that, because he could easily come out and drop a 40 next week and really stunt his cash generation for a couple of weeks. Yes, he's got a negative 49 break even, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm jumping on that one with the options that we have this week. Tanner Bruin, look, you can look at him as cash generation. You could look at him as a possible, as a stepping stone or a possible premium with the way that he is scoring. I'd put Tanner Bruin almost in that must-have category. 276k for a guy that's averaging 100.5 across his first 2 games. The role is beautiful. He's got very limited time on ground as well. As that time on ground increases, he's only going to get better. If you somehow don't have Tanner Bruin, You've got to get him in this week. He's off his bye now. He doesn't have that early bye anymore. So yeah, he is. I'm going to say must have at this point. Jack Watkins is another one I want to talk about. 99k. He sort of came onto the scene in the practice game, where he was one of the main Port Adelaide CBA centre bounce attendances in the practice game, and looked okay. Like didn't blow anyone away or whatever, but and come round one had a 45 without the CBAs. Round two against Essendon, he had the centre bounces. He was in that midfield, and dropped to 74. That like the midfield role sort of came after the Rosé injury, and this was all sort of the last quarter. Looked really good with it. Had a few possessions, kicked a goal. I think the job security is now there with Ollie Wines probably just going to come in for Connor Rosé. Does that mean he still gets some midfield time? I think he didn't do anything wrong to get that. They've got a very nice fixture coming up with West Coast next week, then Richmond, probably the two bottom sides, and then St Kilda still haven't put it together yet with all their new recruits. So if that still continues, the next three games look pretty good for him. It's just making sure that he's going to keep that spot in the side, which I think he does at this point. He's probably my favourite downgrade option this week if you don't have the must-have rookies. If you already have the must-have rookies. So I really, really like the Watkins pick. Some other options that are probably not spoken about much, but still good options. We'll start with Bo Allen. High draft pick, pickable as a defender, 152k. Looks really classy in those two games that he's played, 71 and 58. The job security is probably there now that they won. But you saw last week with Josh Lindsay going out, even though he played all right. So I still back in Bo Allen more than Josh Lindsay at this point, just having that extra year under his belt. 152k is a bit to pay, but I quite like the Bo Allen pick there. Phoenix Gothard, you could look at. He's played his third game now, but that third game was an 84. That's really decreased his break even with Collingwood to come. He then has the bye, which is a little bit frustrating, but Richmond after the bye is always nice. So yeah, he is at that 168k now. Probably looking elsewhere than Gothard at this point. But just one to keep in mind. Max Kondogiannis, look, he's not really going to set the world alight. And 51 and 49, great scoring. So he's probably an easy pass for now. With his current role, he could easily be dropped from that side as well. And Ned Reeves. Ned Reeves has just 104 and 85, playing as a dual ruck more so than a second ruck. Anytime he's on the field, he's playing as the ruckman, and his points per minute are insane, as you can see here. 1.6 points per minute in game one and 1.4 last week against Sydney. That's against Grundy as well. So yeah, he can do it against the good opposition. I quite like this pick. I just don't know how it's going to fit in your structure. If you've got the two premium rucks, I'd rather have McAndrew at the flex than Reeves. Just being the solo ruck at the moment with the current status of Hawthorn's ruck situation and the price of McAndrew as well, I'd rather go to him. But if you have McAndrew at R2, you could easily float having Ned Reeves at the flex. I know he's got the bye this week, so it's probably one that we can talk on more next week, but you could plan to have the 240k to bring in Ned Reeves come next week. I just don't like the fact that he's dual ruck and not getting a heap of minutes. Like, this could easily be a 40 score just because of the amount of minutes he's getting on ground. So, yeah, if you can somehow make it work, he's got nice scores, a nice break even of negative 49. You know, if he drops to 65 and then they're predicting an 89 against the Bulldogs, but he's then going up 82k, which is quite nice. But yeah, one probably more for next week. Now that we look further into that, let's have a look at some trade-in options for this week. Let's see what everyone is doing. Dan Houston is the first one I want to talk about as well. Dars and I had a massive back and forth last week because I did jump on him last week just with my trade scenario with Hayden Young and Josh Lindsay. I wanted to get Murdoch, and then look at how that turned out. That's a bit frustrating, but Dan Houston was the other one I was pretty sold on. 430k is great buying. If he's not even a top 10 defender, he's going to get up to that 500k range and still provide some great scoring. So the 430k buying for Dan Houston, with the way that Collingwood are looking to play this year, I think it does put him in that top 10 defender calculations. If he averages 105 was a top 6 defending average last year. If you have a look at the previous seasons, the top 6 were 105 average. So if he just goes just under that, he's then a top 10 defender at 430k. You cannot complain about that. That's why I was so sold on getting Colby McKercher in his halfback role before we saw that he was probably going to play midfield. So I'm now taking that logic into Houston with how Collingwood play. Yes, he's got to share it with Josh Dacos, but they're just going through the two of them to attack at all costs. So I really like how Houston is setting up there. Off his bye now as well. So he's a good time to snaffle him up. Next I want to talk about is Josh Dacos. Let's just move this and jump on Josh Dacos here. 525k, 75 break even. It's very similar can be said about him in Houston. They pretty much flipped their scoring. Last week, round 0, 130, and Houston 90. Then last week against Adelaide in round 1, 90 for Josh Dacos and 130 for Houston. So yeah, they're sharing 220 points between them. On average between the 2 weeks. So I really, really like that. It's just that Josh Dacos is 100k more expensive than Dan Houston. So that's why I prefer the Josh Dacos buying. The Dan Houston buying. But Josh Dacos is definitely a great option and really looks like he's going to push that top 6, top 8 defender this year with the playstyle that Collingwood are running at the moment. So I definitely can't knock anyone going Josh Dacos this week. Next on the list that I want to talk about is Josh Worrell. A little bit of a calf scare if people haven't seen reports at training today. So maybe temper with caution here. He's listed as a test on the injury report this week. And just keep an eye on this one on teams if he's going to get named. Looks like he's going to be a good option here, playing as that sort of more intercept defender. Started in only 1.7% of sides. 1.4% of sides. Went up to 1.7 last week, and now nearly 5% of the competition is jumping on him. He looks like a great buy as well. Really solid in that Adelaide defence. So I can't talk you out of that. Just keep an eye on the injury report. The teams for his injury, if that's going to affect him this week, because obviously you don't want to jump on him if he's not named. Another one I want to talk about, and I have jumped on this week, is Lockie Ash. Yes, he has the bye in round 4, but the break-even of 70 against Collingwood is just a great matchup. At Marvel as well, he dropped 136 on the Dogs in round 1 at Marvel, so he likes playing at Marvel as well. And that's going to shoot him back past 600k if he drops, 110. He's going to be back above that 600k range. So I'm really sold that Lockie Ash is going to be a top 5 defender this year. There's only a select few that I really have up in the conversations with Lockie Ash. Yes, the round 4 bye is frustrating, but everyone has, on the round 4 bye is only St Kilda and GWS. And everyone has the main St Kilda guys, your Flanders, your Philippou, your Sinclair or Naz. Most people opted for Sinclair. So it's not going to affect that many teams in terms of the scoring front because everyone's sort of affected the same. So if you just have that one extra premium you might be missing, you're going to have that extra rookie on field that's going to make up that you might lose maybe 30, 40 points there, compared to going to maybe a Jordan Clark. So yeah, I really like the Lockie Ash pick. Um, yeah, I'm really sold on him getting the keys to that defense, over Whitfield. Yeah, it's Whitfield will still be a good option. He's just started the season a little bit slow, but Ash is clearly the guy that they're playing a lot of their ball through. Next, I want to talk about is Shea Bolton. A lot of people are worried about the forward premiums, especially with Petrarca going down. So, who do you go to? And Shea Bolton, if you don't have Harry Sheezel, jump on Harry Sheezel. He's dominating. It looks like he's going to be a great pick this year. Yeah, he's clearly going to be F1 come season end. So that's an easy pivot from Petrarca, especially because he's had a price rise, and they're relatively the same price. But Shea Bolton last week moved back into that midfield and dropped 142. In the first game, he barely got any midfield time. And I really, really like Shea Bolton in a midfield role. We've seen him with a few inconsistencies over the previous years of like fluctuation in his scoring. But this week he's got Richmond, who you'd expect they'll have a very easy time against. And then Adelaide, Collingwood, West Coast, and Carlton after that. So it's a pretty decent run. Not really the huge top end sides that you see contending until they hit the Bulldogs. So it's a good run for him to get that good midfield time, probably before Hayden Young's back. But we need to see. I'd rather pay up for a Shea Bolton, knowing that he is stuck in that midfield role before I commit to jumping on him. So I'd probably wait on the Shea Bolton pick. But if you have to grab a forward, he might be your best option. Obviously, if you don't have Sheezel, Murphy Reed's another one who you could jump on. He doesn't get that midfield role that we sort of expect, but he's that classy of a footballer. He might be one we have to jump on at some point. Brian Myers is very nice. A lot of the play goes through him when going forward for the Cats, so I don't mind that play. Isaac Rankin, we probably haven't seen enough just yet to jump on him. He'll probably come down in price from that 540k range as well. So yeah, you need to probably play with some DPP here. Probably jump on a forward rookie like a Braden Cook even and upgrade elsewhere. Maybe if you're punting Petrarca and Sharp, go Petrarca down to Cook and go Sharp up to a premium. So you're pretty much doing the sideways still in that sense. So yeah, keep that in mind. Next on this list I want to talk about is the guy that costs the most in this game currently, and it's the Bond. He went up 3k. I know he's on the buy this week, so no one should be jumping on him. 1% are already jumping on him. But do you just, like, the fact you've got two premiums out, I'm just speculating that Petrarca and Rosie are in your side. It's not very often that you have the money to spend for a really top guy. Yes, the guys that faded the Bond are now like got to hold their hand up and be like, "Yep, we got that one wrong." He's going to come down at some point, but the fact he started the season this hot, especially with Essendon to come, then Hawthorn, they don't have a midfield really. Geelong, they might tag him, but can you even tag the Bont? Tags haven't even worked on the Bont before because he just goes forward and then dominates off forward. So it's just a matter of when can you get him in with your team scenario. So you could do that this week. You could just bank the cash this week and get another cash cow and get that little price rise from another cash cow, and then punt Carroll next week when he's on the bye, and get him up to the Bont. So if you go the two rookies and a premium for the two premiums and a rookie, yeah, bank that cash for Bond. So you could easily do that. Plan your trade ahead if you are looking at getting the Bond next week, because 710k, you're going to need to move heaven and earth to get him in. Tristan Cherry's another one I want to talk about. 199 points last week. I think it just shows more that West Coast are a very easy matchup. We kept speculating that the rules will hurt Cherry more than assist him. He got smashed in the hit-outs in the first week against Vicentini of all ruckmen. So, yes, this week he's coming up against Blackiston, and he's probably going to absolutely obliterate him as well. So I expect another big score. Setting it up against Pitnet, then Darcy Fort, then Richmond's ruck. We don't even know who they're going to field. Then Kieran Briggs. We knew that this early run was so great, but we probably just. It's probably something we should have, in hindsight. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, that we should have just speculated he was going to go on a 150 average run, but we thought that the ruck rules would affect him a bit more. So you could jump on Cherry. I don't know. Are you going to keep him for the whole season? Is he going to be really affected by these ruck rules? Is he not going to be affected by the ruck rules? Because the fact he can get around the ground a lot nicer is pretty good. So yeah, keep an eye on that. I'm probably not spending up for Tristan Cherry in the ruck line. If you are spending up for a ruckman this week, I'd probably be more inclined to go Jackson, especially with the Richmond ruck, and then up against McAndrew. He's looking pretty good, even if he's in a midfield role. So that's another one you can consider there. Max Holmes is coming off his bye. Started the season pretty well with 103 and 141. Then got Adelaide, Hawthorn, West Coast as the next three. So that's a pretty good run for midfielders there. I quite like this pick. He's slept on a bit. He's a pod. He's only in 6.5% of sides. Yeah, you could easily jump on Max Holmes and be happy with that pick. He's just going to provide you some really good scoring and be a nice captain option each week. So I do like that. Luke Jackson, I've touched on a little bit. He's looking good, but his current status of like DPP for mid and forward as being his second is not great, to put it bluntly, I guess. He's about 20% for each of them from the reports I've seen, which is pretty frustrating. You just need him to spend a little bit more time in each of the roles. Maybe this week they can sort of rest him. Maybe give Sean Darcy a big run and he can get that DPP, which would be even nicer. Nick Dacos, he's coming off the bye. He started the year just in Nick Dacos fashion, 117, 126. I don't suspect GWS will tag Nick Dacos this week. They sort of haven't this year. They don't have Bedford in there. Bedford's a test for this week, so I doubt he's going to come in before their bye. So yeah, I suspect that Nick Dacos will nearly run free. If he gets off the chain, they'll throw someone on him. I just don't know who they would be at this point, but he's definitely a great trade in at 628k. He's only going to go up in price based on his current scoring. So yeah, you just need to get him in now. If you don't have him, but 62% of the competition already do. And Zach Merritt's probably the last one I'm going to speak about. Looks like he's going to fly under the radar a bit, be a pod like he is to start the year almost every year, and he's just super consistent. 139, 107. Got North Melbourne this week, so that's a great matchup. Then the Dogs, which is a bit harder, but Melbourne as well. So we know that he is the main guy for Essendon. He's now back in their leadership group, from what I've seen. So yeah, he's just gonna tear it up, lead this Essendon, midfield, and try and put more money on his contract come end of the season. So yeah. I really do like the Zach Merritt pick, and one that I might target in the next few weeks as well. A few players to look out for next week. I know a lot of people like the look of Sherry, I think is the way you say it. Not the Tristan variety, but the Freo player who debuted last week. Spelt like Scary, Chris Scary. But 99k mid-forward. Dropped to 73 in his first game, and I only expect that score to probably replicate this week. Coming up against Richmond, looks really quick over the ground and provides some really good efforts out there when I was watching that game. Didn't kick a goal, but had 20 possessions. So yeah, he definitely looks like he's going to be a nice player, but don't go early on him. I think it's pretty evident now that Murdoch's injured. It's just easier to not go early on him and the likes of like a Lindsay getting dropped even if he plays well. So I think they're two very vital points in terms of why you don't go early on rookies. Chase Jones is another one. I think his job security's gone up with the fact that Rory Laird's got a little bit of an injury. Josh Worrell's down. I'm pretty sure there's someone else that's maybe injured as well, like Archie's down. But yeah, so he looked really good off that back line for Adelaide on the weekend and dropped an 86. So his job security is really good, but wait for another week on him after the Geelong game. So he can be our downgrade option next week. And then the next one and last one we'll probably talk about in terms of a possible downgrade option is Jake Rogers. Looks really quick. Definitely developed his game a bit with a 96 and a 70. He's on the bye this week, so you can just wait for next week. He is 179k, however. Pickable as a forward, which is nice, but yeah, 179k is a bit of buying. And yeah, on the bye, so wait for him come next week. That about wraps up this little special episode. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much in this one, and you take some good pointers coming out of this one. We will be back with our review podcast. It should be, at the moment, me and Darcy back on the pod and ready to preview round 3 for the upcoming week. So make sure you get your trades in. 3 trades this week. Just do it. I'm sure that there's someone that you're and ahhing about, even if you have to punt Carroll because his scoring is not doing great. I'm sure you can get him to a Watkins this week, and that'll provide you some better points moving forward. So just as a little pointer there. So we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.